When Trump finally began his speech, stepping up to the podium with its presidential seal gleaming under the chandeliers, he held something rarely seen in his hands. Notes. Actual, physical notes on paper. "First time I brought notes," he said with his characteristic grin, holding them up for everyone to see. "Because we've done so much for Israel, I don't want to forget anything. I've got pages here. Pages. I don't want to leave out the Golan Heights or Jerusalem or any of it." The room filled with laughter, the tension breaking like ice under warm water. This was Trump's style. Genuine, direct, completely unfiltered, mixing gravity with levity in a way that was uniquely his own. He spoke of the horrific attack in Sydney, his voice softening for a moment, the usual bravado giving way to something deeper. Anti-Semitic terrorism. That's exactly what it is. We don't learn, do we? The room fell silent, heads nodding in somber agreement. Then he looked up and saw her across the crowded room. Miriam Adelson, Sheldon's widow, the woman who had donated $250 million to his campaign, making her the single largest contributor. Without hesitation, he called her to the stage. "When somebody can give you $250 million, he quipped as she made her way forward. "I think we should give her the opportunity to say hello." Miriam walked slowly, but with dignity, eventually reaching Trump's side. He offered his arm with genuine concern. "Be careful," Trump said softly, his voice carrying through the microphone. "We don't want you falling. You know, when you fall, it's not good for politics. We had a man that fell a lot. I don't want to talk too much because I'll have my day, I'm sure." The room laughed again. But this time there was sadness behind the smiling eyes, understanding of what was left unsaid. Miriam spoke of seeing Trump in the Israeli parliament, of standing despite her pain when he called her name from across the chamber. Her voice trembled with emotion. "You don't just express solidarity, you practice solidarity with the Jewish people. Many people believe you may very well be the strongest, deepest friend that Israel and the Jewish people have ever had in the White House." Trump bowed his head slightly, accepting the words with uncharacteristic humility. "Sheldon was an amazing guy," he said quietly. "He'd come up to the office and say, 'Can I come over, please?' I'd say, 'Sheldon, I'm President of the United States. It doesn't work that way anymore.' But I'd let him come, and he always said 10 minutes. It turned out to be about an hour and a half, and all he wanted to talk about was Israel. Just Israel. That's all he really fought for." As the speech progressed, the mood shifted again. Trump invited two elderly men to join him, Jerry Warsky and Michael Bournestine, Holocaust survivors, both in their 90s, but still with an unmistakable light in their eyes, the light of survival, of bearing witness, of refusing to let evil have the final word. "You look better than I do," Trump said with genuine admiration as they slowly made their way to the stage. "You look fantastic." The room thundered with applause that seemed to go on forever, a standing ovation for lives that had endured the unendurable. Jerry had been only 9 years old when the Nazis invaded Poland. He lost both parents in the camps but refused to let their murder defeat him. Michael had lost his father and mother in Auschwitz when he was just a toddler, surviving through the love and sacrifice of other family members, eventually coming to America and earning a PhD in chemistry. "We're honored to have you both," Trump said simply. "This whole group of people are very honored." Then he turned to Iran, and the atmosphere in the room changed yet again. He spoke of that dark night, that moonless night when American B-2 bombers had struck at the heart of Iran's nuclear program. "The pilots had been practicing this for 22 years, Trump said, his voice carrying the weight of the decision he had made. 22 years, 3 times a year practicing that run, and no president had the courage to tell them to go. He described the mission with vivid detail. 7 B-2 bombers, 4 decoy planes, 52 refueling tankers, F-22 and F-35 fighters circling in protection. 2 in the morning, no moon, complete darkness. Every bomb hitting its target with surgical precision, going down air shafts into granite mountains hundreds of feet deep. I asked the pilots when they came to the Oval Office, 'You can't seriously enjoy this. You're flying into Iranian airspace. They're waiting for you. It's dark, it's cold, Bullets are flying everywhere. You know what they said? Trump paused for effect. Sir, we wouldn't trade this for anything in the world. He shook his head in wonder. I love you guys, but I'm not getting in that plane. Laughter rose and fell like a wave, but then silence descended. Everyone understood what he meant. The extraordinary courage of those who served, the weight of the decisions made in the Situation Room, the thin line between safety and catastrophe. The tone of the speech shifted once more, and Trump's expression became serious, almost stern. This was the message he needed them to hear, the warning he felt compelled to deliver. 15 years ago, my father told me that the most powerful lobby in this country is the Jewish lobby, the Israeli lobby. It's not that way anymore. The room tensed, the air growing thick with anticipation and concern. You have a Congress that is becoming anti-Semitic, he continued, his voice hardening. AOC +3, Ilhan Omar, she hates Jewish people. And you have to be very careful because there's been a big change. If you would have told me 15 years ago that we'd have people in Congress who hate Israel, I would have said, there's no way, that's impossible. But it's happening. And obviously, it's getting progressively worse. He raised his finger, pointing not at anyone in particular, but at the reality they all faced. You have to be vigilant and careful, because bad things are happening. October 7th. And then you have people that deny it ever happened. They deny it like they deny the Holocaust. Bad people are now in Congress that were unthinkable 12, 13, 14 years ago. The uncomfortable truth hung in the air. This wasn't what anyone expected at a pleasant holiday dinner, but everyone knew Trump was always like this, never shying away from speaking bitter truths, never softening the message for the sake of comfort. When Rabbi Kaplan came to the stage, the mood shifted yet again. He held the menorah carefully, the 9-branched candelabrum gleaming in the light, the symbol of Hanukkah and of miracles that defied logic. Mr. President, the rabbi said, his voice trembling with emotion, you know that I'm Jewish, you know that I'm American, but you may not know that a very large part of my family lives in Australia. Some escaped the attack, some didn't. He paused, gathering himself. All I can say is listening to them on the other side of the world speak about you. You don't just express solidarity, you practice solidarity with the Jewish people, perhaps in a way we've never seen before. Trump bowed his head, and in this moment, all the jokes, all the showmanship, all the political theater were set aside. This was something deeper, something that transcended the usual boundaries of public life. As the rabbi recited the ancient prayers in Hebrew, his voice rising and falling with the sacred rhythms, Trump carefully lit 3 candles of the menorah, one for each night of Hanukkah that had already passed. The flames caught and danced, casting shadows that flickered across the walls, filling the room with a golden light that seemed almost alive. Everyone began singing Ma'oz Tzur, the ancient song of Hanukkah, a song of deliverance and faith that had been sung for centuries. The melody filled the East Room, voices blending together, young and old, men and women, those born in America and those who had come from distant lands seeking freedom. As the formal program ended and the night progressed into a more casual gathering, Trump moved through the crowd, speaking with guests one by one. He laughed with Sid Rosenberg, the New York radio host who had nearly cried when called to the stage earlier. He hugged Mark Levin's wife Julie, whom he'd worried about when someone in the crowd had felt faint. He shook hands with Howard Lutnick, discussing commerce and trade with the ease of long familiarity. At one point, Trump found himself standing near one of the tall windows, looking out at the snow that continued to fall on the White House grounds. The flakes caught the light from the windows, creating a scene that looked almost magical, like something from a painting. You know, he said to a guest who had joined him at the window, I was thinking about the Hanukkah miracle. They found only enough oil for one night, but it burned for 8 days. 8 days. He paused, watching the snow fall, his voice becoming quieter, more reflective. Sometimes, all you need against the darkness is a small light. Just a small flame. But you have to fight to keep that light from going out. You have to stay vigilant, stay strong, protect it with everything you have. The guest nodded slowly. "And you stand beside that light, Mr. President." Trump turned from the window, and for a moment, his expression was different from the public persona everyone knew. Softer, more vulnerable, more human. He smiled, a humble, genuine smile without the usual showmanship. "We all stand beside it," he said quietly. "All of us. Together. That's the only way it works." When the night finally ended, and the last guests departed into the snowy Washington night, their footsteps leaving temporary marks in the fresh powder, Trump remained in the East Room for a few moments longer. The menorah's candles were still burning, their flames steady and bright despite the late hour. He stood before them, alone now, except for the Secret Service agent stationed discreetly at the doors, and watched the flames dance. 3 small lights, but in the darkened room they seemed brighter than their size would suggest, casting a warm glow that pushed back the shadows. "Light always wins," he whispered to himself, his voice so quiet it barely disturbed the air. Always. And that night, within the old walls of the White House, a story thousands of years old was told once more. The story of hope persisting in desperate times, of resilience in the face of hatred, of light that refuses to be extinguished no matter how dark the night becomes. It was a story about oil that burned longer than possible, about a small band of fighters who refused to surrender, about faith that endured through centuries of persecution. But more than that, it was a story about people. People who gathered on a snowy night in December. People who remembered both ancient miracles and recent tragedies. People who looked at 3 small flames and saw something larger than themselves. They saw continuity stretching back through the generations, connecting them to ancestors they had never known but whose faith they carried forward. They saw solidarity in a world that too often chose division. They saw light in the darkness. As Trump finally left the room, the candles continued burning behind him, their work not yet finished, their message still being written in flame and shadow on this 3rd night of Hanukkah.